Hello and welcome. It's time, finally, to talk about Malevolent, Episode 1. I'm losing my voice a little bit, so sorry if I sound a little weird, but I'm so excited. So we're going to talk about Part 1, The Dark World of Malevolent. And I realized I should have done this with Old Gods of Appalachia when I talked about it last week, but if you don't know what Malevolent is another horror YouTube show / podcast that is about a man that wakes up without the ability to see and a voice in his head that now has control of his eyes. And there's some Lovecraft going on there, and that's as much as I'll give you for a primer for if you don't know anything else about it. It's very good. You should go check it out. I have listened to past this first episode. I had listened to the first 12 episodes last year with the idea of making a video about it then when I finished the season, and then I got busy and I didn't finish the season, and now people want individual episode reviews, and so this way we can actually hopefully talk about Malevolent all the way through. So we're going to start with episode 1, but yet again, this is your warning, there will be spoilers in this. I'm going to talk about everything in this first episode, but nothing past the first episode. So let's get into it. Arthur Lester is a detective. He's a detective that seems like he's pretty good at his job. He's got a partner, things going well, until he wakes up without the ability to see. A creature in his mind has his eyes, and his partner is dead on the ground. Now, the setup for this is really cool and interesting because everything has to be explained to us by the creature, by the voice, right? That was my phone. And so you're going to have to get used to the idea that it's not like some of the other horror audio dramas where things aren't explained that people see. They're just explained in conversation because they don't have to say, well, I see this. Because in this one, they absolutely do, and there's a good diegetic reason as to why, right? Arthur cannot see any longer. I find Arthur to be a really interesting character. I'm going to get into the whole plot synopsis and everything in just a minute, but I find Arthur as a character really interesting. He's a lot more grounded than I would have expected. He handles this a whole lot better than I think most people probably would, but also his partner's dead on the ground. If he doesn't do something, he's going to get blamed for it. And so he's just trying to make the best of a bad situation, right? He doesn't remember everything that's going on. He doesn't remember why everything is happening, and he's doing his best. Now, I'm going to call it The Voice for now, though it does get a name later, because it doesn't get a name in this episode. But The Voice is very interesting. As we find out through the course of this episode, and again, I warned you about spoilers, as we find out through the course of this episode, the voice is from the Dark World, a world at the end of all timelines, or at the end of all divergent pathways, as it seems like string theory is the way to go here, right? Everything splits off based on decisions, and at the end of all of those is this junkyard that is the Dark World. I tried to combine those words. It's a very interesting character, a very interesting idea, and I am positive that this thing is probably not kind or good, but it is working with Arthur here in an attempt to try and help both of them survive, right? I don't know how I feel about the voice in this first episode. In many ways, it's very helpful. It's very patient for a while until it suddenly and very viscerally isn't patient anymore. It's very angry, and to the point of almost seeming like it wants Arthur to just die because Arthur made the wrong choice, you know? And I get where partly it could be coming from. If you have no control over the automation of the body and you are completely bound with just what you see and reliant on someone else to move for you, that could be really frustrating. But it's just kind of fascinating how quick that turn is from, patient and everything's going to be okay. Sit down, play the piano. See, things are better now. To, you should have followed him. And it's pretty good. It's pretty dynamic. I really enjoyed it. A couple other things I wanted to mention here too, real quick. Because these episodes are longer than the Magnus episodes or the Old Gods episodes that I've covered so far. And so I don't want to just regurgitate the entire plot to you, but they're very good. I find myself immersed very quickly, And part of that is because of how well the prose is written, because of how descriptive everything is, and even down to little interactions like with Eddie, where there's a lot of tension because you kind of get into the same mindset of, I can't see, I don't know what's happening, I'm reliant on this voice to tell me what I can see, and it's very strong. But there's a couple things that really stand out to me. There's the sound of like a lamp sometimes, and I don't know what that's supposed to be. I don't know what the point of that is. Is it a light coming on in the dark world? Is it that they've set off now, a decision's been made, and now they're on a different path than they would have been before? It's very interesting. And it feels like, in some ways, that this series is like almost like a story told from a live play of like Call of Cthulhu, right? And we'll get into why. There's no reason not to talk about it now. They're set near Miskatonic. They're in Arkham. Miskatonic University's down the road. Ackerman Books is over here. Ackerman Rare Books, sorry. And then later on in the episode, Shub-Niggurath gets mentioned. So we're in my wheelhouse, is all I'm saying. And it does make it kind of feel like this is a Call of Cthulhu campaign that we're getting to see from the street level, right? Which is fun. I think that's really interesting. A couple other things that I wanted to mention here that I thought were very interesting. First off, again, the Dark World. Super crazy cool. Reminds me a little bit, and this is going to sound like it's pulled out of nowhere, but trust me, it reminds me a little bit of the backyard from Guilty Gear, the junkyard that everything is thrown into. But specifically here, the Dark World is when you die. There's a song that's played on the radio in Ackerman Rare Books that the voice recognizes, and it seems to resonate with the voice. And does that mean that the voice was a person that lived during that time, or is there some other reason that song is resonating? Is it that the song is resonating because it's playing somewhere in the Dark World and the voice heard it there? The voice mentions that it's been alive for countless lifetimes in a time or a place where there is no time, right? But is that true, or is that just what it felt like? Is it actually just from like 30 years ago, and that's a classic song that it heard on the radio? You know, interesting stuff for sure. I want to talk just a little bit more about Arthur. Arthur, I mentioned he was grounded. I feel like I'm all over the place in this. It's because normally I cover it in the process of the plot, and here we're jumping around so much. I took very extensive notes, and I still feel like I didn't take enough notes. But Arthur is like weirdly calm very quickly. After he plays the piano, he's good. And I don't think that's like weird as in I don't think it's realistic, you know? I think instead it's weird as in he must be either a great detective or there's something else going on. He bounces back and forth between calling his partner Peter and Parker, and he mentions that's because Peter went by his dad's name often. It could be because it's a like cover of, you know, well, if I call him Parker in public but Peter in private, then people will think his name's Parker and it'll help protect him. Or there could be something else going on there. Also, Arthur is able to very quickly move from my partner's dead, I might have killed him, to, oh, he's in the closet now, I gotta hide this body, to not really that sad about it later. Like the way that Arthur talks about, I've got the names here, Roland Cummings or Strong, it almost seems like in those, he's a little sad that they're gone, right? But he doesn't sound that same way with Parker. And so I'm wondering if there's something more going on there, or if he's just really, really good at processing his grief, at focusing on the task at hand and shoving all those emotions back so that he can focus on what needs to be done. Eddie's a really interesting character too. I think there's going to be a lot more that goes on there. I think whenever they leave the house at 58 Pelican Lane, the office is probably already going to be busted because I think Eddie went in there as soon as Arthur left. But I want to talk about the book, the phrase that the voice found, and the symbol. So the book, a book of strange incantations that a voice, more specifically probably a demon or maybe even outer plane being, an outer god even maybe, was trapped inside. This book that houses horrors that was delivered to Arthur's door, that was originally intended either to go to Cummings or to Strong, or that's just a theory and was actually supposed to go to Arthur all the time. The phrase de tribus militibus, which is the three soldiers, but I couldn't find an actual book called that. That's what it's translated out of Latin. But I did find a book called De Tribus Impostoribus, which is the three imposters, which is very interesting. What does it mean by the three soldiers? What's going on there? Is that... Well, it wouldn't be Parker probably because he's dead, but my first thought was the voice, Arthur, and Parker. Maybe for the ritual to work, to be able to free the voice, they needed three people there. Hard to say, but also... Shub-Niggurath is here, and what is the Black Goat of the Woods with 1,000 young doing here? What is the Lord of the Wood doing here? What is the All-Mother doing here? Okay, and then you have the fact that the voice wants Arthur to stop her. Literally, how? Do you understand how hard it was to stop the Dunwich Horror? She's a tier above that, man. What do you expect him to do? And so you have this book, you have this symbol that I'm assuming is either the Elder Sign or maybe a symbol specifically for Shub-Niggurath. What is Arthur supposed to do about that? I'm so interested in seeing where the story goes because there's a lot of other cool little tidbits too. Emily McFarlane, who was found dismembered in the field, the missing girl, the voice got very angry at Arthur when it seemed like he didn't do enough to help her, even though it seems like Arthur was kind of doing his best. The significance of 58 Pelican Lane and this hidden room behind there that the voice seems to think Shub-Niggurath was trapped in. But how would you trap an elder god, or at least an outer god, depending on, whether you go with Durless denomination or not, but how would you trap that in a room? And then the two bodies behind a podium with a knife and the bones, the dismemberment of the skeleton. There's so much. And then the idea that they're like, well, did Emily let this thing out? I'm so excited to see more. And again, I'm not just going to go down every single moment of story here. There's a lot, and it takes a while to get it all explained because they're having to explain everything because of the way it's laid out. I think it's a really cool way to do it. But I really, really enjoyed this. I am so stoked to hear more. And I really don't think the voice is going to be a good thing for Arthur. I feel like it's going to be a very bad thing for Arthur. Just because that phrase, I have your eyes now. That sticks out to me, Not, I'm in control of your eyes. I have your eyes. Okay. Are we going to see some of these other paths? The voice mentions that one of the other paths has Monsters of Legends on it. Are we going to see more of the elder gods, more of the outer gods, or at least the creatures that live beyond the stars and between the stars? I think this could be a really, really interesting place to bring in the Hounds of Tindalos or something like that. So I'm a huge fan of Lovecraft's work, not of the man. And so this is right up my alley, and I'm very excited. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. I could just keep going, but I would just be rambling about the same things over and over again. There's a lot of questions that we don't have answers to, and a lot of things that I think are very interesting, but that we just don't know where they're going yet. I did want to give a quick shout out to how beautiful the piano is in this. The piano is very, very nice. But let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. The fact that I'm still going. I keep trying to stop, and I'm still going. The Rolodex was already on their apartment because somebody was going to try and find the book. Some cultist, I guess, because I didn't even mention how Arthur almost gets shot in Ackerman's Rare Books, where a masked assailant shoots at him, having apparently ruined the back of the shop and probably killed Ackerman. Are we going to have people from Miskatonic that get involved to try and help or hurt? I'm very, very interested. We will be back with Malevolent. I forgot the title for a second in my head. Not this next week, but the week after, because we're going to alternate every week between Malevolent and Old Gods of Appalachia. That way we make sure we cover both and not just get focused on one. So 2 weeks, we'll be back to talk again about episode 2. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. I'm ending for real this time. And until next time, I've been Trey. This has been The Full Spectrum. Remember to always enjoy the full spectrum that Malevolent has to offer. They're in Arkham, Massachusetts. I was so excited. I was doing so well, and then I hit a word that for some reason I couldn't say, even though Massachusetts, it's a regular word. I say it all. They're in Arkham,